Welcome to the MBL Rookie Draft. Today we'll see teams select franchise players who will forever change the culture of the team while having immediate success. While some teams will weigh risk versus reward, banking on a player's potential to develop. Some players will go on to be champions, Hall of Famers. Even though they were drafted in later rounds, their success won't be denied. You are witnessing the leader in full immersion gaming, the Madden Bomber League. So join our journey today. Go to 365.maddenbomberleague.com and take your chance to become a legend and forever be remembered like Lucky Jordan, Asa Sharar, because legends never die. And you're watching the MBL Network.
Boy, that intro always gets me pumped. The MBL Rookie Draft here for Season 30 is live here on the MBL Network at twitch.tv/MBL Network, and of course over on YouTube at youtube.com/Madden Bomber League. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in to the Season 30 MBL Rookie Draft. I'm OSU. I'm joined by a cavalcade of MBL Network personalities. We've got both of the commissions themselves, Bomber and Lip. We've got Sonny Weaver, and we got Hop taking an eye on the chat, folks, and we're going to give you just a little heads up about what we're doing tonight, folks, and then we'll get to our panel and get to start talking. We got a whole new format tonight here on the MBL Rookie Draft. We talked about it a little bit on Commissioner Corner. The guys in the league have seen some videos on this. What we're basically doing tonight is we're giving you just a state of the franchise. We're peeling back the curtain of the MBL for one night only, and what we're doing is we're going to answer any questions you may have, whether it's about the game, whether it's about the league, whether it's about Madden as a whole, whether it's about, I don't even really care. You can ask questions about the NFL, anything you want. Hop will be manning the chat and answering and showing us the questions, and we'll be answering as much as we can. We've got some topics we'll talk about. We've got the MBL Rookie Draft playing right here live. What you see is what you get. The number one pick, the Los Angeles Rams, will be on the clock momentarily, but we're not doing pick-by-pick analysis. We'll bring the interesting picks as they come into our email. Our lovely people here at the MBL are sending us screenshots of all of their players that they draft, so we'll be able to bring you the most interesting players as they come along, but really this is just an opportunity to sort of peel back the curtain and answer some questions from the chat, and I'll throw it to Bomber first. Bomber, it should be kind of fun because this is really more laid back than we're used to here on the network. You see a lot of these productions, we have a lot of graphics and a lot of pomp and circumstance, and tonight is really just a time for these guys in the chat and our people who are joining us here on the Twitch to just sort of lay back, enjoy the MBL draft, and maybe answer some questions that we wouldn't normally answer on MBL Live.
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity, as you said, to peel back the curtain a little bit, get a little Q&A going with the chat, engage with the chat, talk about all the teams in the league, and basically kind of kick off a little bit of a celebration to the new season coming on. This MBL Season 30 right now. So we're going to be doing this every season as we've been doing. Just this format is going to be a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more laid back, as in, hey, man, let's celebrate our accomplishments as we go through another season and another season. And now it's MBL Season 30, and I'm really excited to see this draft. I think we have a lot of teams who made a lot of moves, and a lot of teams really excited about their future in the MBL, especially this Madden 18 cycle with about 2, 3, maybe 4 seasons left at max.
Okay, and I can already see it happening in the chat, guys. Nightbot is still turned up all the way from when we did the Super Bowl, so I think you can only get 4 emotes in at a time. So if you're getting timed out, just you know, only a couple at a time. I'm just giving you the heads up, but Lip, you know, I'm literally panicking watching the draft. I'm literally watching the first 3 picks and having a heart attack because usually we do analysis of these teams. And we do have those team cards made up by our draft experts, Gub and Doe. So we may talk about some of these teams, some of these owners, as we get through the draft. But we're going to go till about 10 o'clock. Lip, the question I want to ask you, as somebody who's been here, Season 30, what does that mean to you? It's a nice round number, but it's sort of unbelievable to think 30 seasons here in the MBL.
Yeah, it's a nice round number, but it's a lot more than that, and a lot of it has to do with the community that has been built over those 30 seasons. As we all know, a lot of people have come and gone through the MBL in that time, but the guys that we have here, they've been here for quite a while, and we've really built a solid community. This is so much more than a video game, than a Madden game, than a football game. Just the relationships that we've all built together. Whenever anybody goes through a hard time or anybody needs some advice or something, you have a whole entire group, a whole entire community to help you through that. And that's really what this entire group and league has become. And that's something I'm really proud of because, you know, 30 seasons ago, this was all about Madden. Every single second, it was all about Madden. And now, a lot of it is much more than that. Like I said, anytime somebody needs some help or anything, each of these guys is everybody's here for each other, and it's a really cool thing. And I'm so excited for the next 30 with all of these guys.
Sonny Weaver, let's step from the MBL. Let's go specifically to the network, because you're a guy who's been involved with the MBL network for quite a long time now. Just from your perspective, having been the longest tenured guy here in the MBL network, give us your perspective of where the network started, where we are now, and sort of what you hope to see from the network in the future.
Well, where we started was a bunch of guys just trying to figure, out how to add a little more depth and flavor to the league, and started with a lot of kind of podcasts, and over time it kind of morphed into the live games and some other various shows and things we've done along the way. And I think the biggest thing's always been people's willingness to get involved. Really, the network is built around people's desire to add more depth to the game. And when you really start looking at where we're at now and where we hope to be, that improvement comes from guys like yourself and Bomber and everybody involved, that, people like to think sometimes they can just jump in and just pick right up and start. But it's been years in the making. And I think we've got a good foundation now, and you look out to the future, and I see more big and innovative things on the horizon for us.
Yeah, it's a full team effort here, Bomber. It's interesting because I almost feel like, and I think Lip's mentioned this a couple times. We've only been really on Twitch for about what, 4 weeks? I
think it's been about 4 weeks.
Yeah,
maybe 5. But
yeah, it's sort of hard to wrap your head around. I mean, the MBL network's been doing this. I've been with the MBL network since season 19. And in season 29 of the Super Bowl, we finally got an opportunity to be hosted on the EA's Twitch, on the EA Madden NFL Twitch, and that was a huge thing for the network. And I'm still wrapping my head around how cool of an opportunity that was, not just because of the number of people that actually got to see the MBL product that we are so proud to put on, but just of the idea of just wrapping my head around, we got hosted on the Twitch by the guys who created this game, a multi-million-dollar company who created this game that we have played and loved for the last couple seasons, many years for some of us. I've been playing since Madden 04. They took the opportunity to go out of their way and host us. It's just sort of hard to wrap your head around how cool of an opportunity that was.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for us, for our league, especially from the places we've been. We started from the bottom. We didn't know anybody in the EA circle, in the inner circle, in the inner circle. So to break through those barriers just basically by grinding and putting out a product that was catching the eye of people on the outside circle, and they were telling people in the inside circle, and so forth and so on, and you see that kind of domino effect. But the first pick in the MBL Season 30 draft, we got his player card, OSU. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but AJ Baggs, the #1 pick, MBL Season 30. He goes to the Los Angeles Rams, a team that finally gets the quarterback. What are we, 4th season now or 5th season? This might be the 5th season, 26, 27, 28, 29. This is the 5th season of Madden 18, and AJ Baggs is finally going to be that franchise quarterback that the Rams have been searching for 4 seasons. They finally get their guy, and this guy looks like a beast. I don't know if we got his card on the screen just yet, but man, he's got 89 short, 87 medium, 85 deep, 94 throw power, superstar development, 6'4", 228. This might be the guy, and this might be a team. This is a division that we once, pretty much proclaimed to be one of the worst in the league outside of that AFC East. And it seems like the Niners are coming around. The Rams might be coming around now. The Seahawks are still as relevant as they've always been. This division is looking like it's getting really, really tough right now.
There we go. We got that screenshot up there. AJ Baggs, 85 overall, superstar dev, 85 deep, 87 mid, 89 short, 94 throw power. Lip, you've been here longer than I have, but in terms of quarterbacks I've seen come out of the draft, just ratings-wise, that might be up there as one of the best. Just adding in not only those accuracies, which to have a quarterback come out with a deep accuracy of 85, I rarely see, but also superstar dev and 94 throw power. If Serpent and the Rams can figure out how to use him effectively, this guy seems like he could be a star.
Yeah, and just to go back to what Bomber was talking about, this division has really come around. Now with Baggs going to the Rams, this is 3 teams very strong with quarterbacks and youth around them, except for the Seahawks, who are kind of getting older, but they're still a strong team. That's something that's really impressive whenever you have these cycles that go, 7, 8, 9 seasons, you see these teams that start somewhere, 2 wins, 3 wins, and then they get up to 5 or 6 wins, and then they start to break into that playoff wild card position because of building through the draft and free agency. It's a really cool thing to see. I talk about it almost every cycle. It's really cool. There's always one team that you can, at the end of a cycle, you can look back on and say, wow, that was a really patient, impressive build. And this could be one of them because Bags looks like an incredible quarterback. He's 85 overall. And one of the things that immediately jumped out to me was he already has some of the accuracies that guys have now that have already been in the league for a year or two. So he's starting out way ahead of everybody else.
His accuracies right off the bat are better than Matt Stafford's. Stafford's is 89, 84, 80. He's got him beat on every single one or tied. He's tied on short, but medium and deep he's better than. And his throw power is 94, Stafford 92. So I mean, this guy looks like a player here.
Is Hop here? Is Hop? Are you in here?
I am.
Are you in a cave? What is that?
I don't want you to talk too much, but did Gerberry win Rookie of the Year for the NFC?
Yes, he did.
Okay, let's just look at Jack Gerberry, NFC Rookie of the Year for MBL Season 29. Deep accuracy, 87. Mid accuracy, 88. Short accuracy, 88. This rookie Bags is coming out better than Jack Gerberry right now, who was a rookie of the year for the NFC. So, like I said, this guy's starting out way ahead of a lot of guys that are already 1 or 2 years experience in the NBL.
Sonny, we've been looking at these draft boards for a while now. One of the guys who I'm excited to look at when the card gets sent in, the guy who just went at number 15, Max Stamer, the halfback. He was one of the fastest halfbacks and best all around. But here's my question for you: we've seen a lot of halfbacks in the NBL. We've seen a lot of them get drafted lower in the first round, early second round. I don't feel like that was the case when we were looking at Madden 17. Is there just been, in this game where I feel like the running game is so important, are people just forgetting that a good halfback is necessary, or just more people focusing on halfbacks in free agency?
Well, I think a lot of times it seemed like there were more good halfbacks out of the box this year. So I feel like a lot of guys kept their halfbacks to start. I know we've seen the Packers and obviously the Giants go and get halfbacks, but a lot of teams still riding with originally, out of the box halfbacks. And I think that pushes value down because you're only running one halfback out there in most cases. You're not running 3, 4 wide receivers out there. So there's only so many carries to kind of spread out. But, as far as Stammer's concerned, we'll maybe get a card on that or not. A little worried about his acceleration.
Hop, do we have any, you've been manning the chat, got any questions coming in from the people watching at home?
Not really any questions. There are a lot of people talking about how good Bags really is. A lot of people saying he's a stud, Todd saying he's amazing, Z-Star saying he's really filthy, he's a franchise player. So not many questions, but a lot of statements about AJ Bags.
Yeah, AJ Bags is going to be the talk of the draft, folks. Again, ask your questions in the chat. Anything, doesn't have to be NBL related, can be Madden related, can be anything. We're really opening it up. It's really open-ended, so I'm sure that your minds are racing with the number of questions. Bomber, here's the question. This is one of the topics that I had written down. Because you look at some of the teams that are lower on the list in terms of their records, struggling to get out of the basement in the NBL. A lot of these number 1 overall picks, number 2 overall picks. We've seen a lot of these teams in the top 5 or 10. Where do you draw the line when playing this game between user skill and team talent? How much team talent can team talent overcome a lack of user skill, or could you have the best team in the world and still not be able to win?
Well, it depends how bad. Depends how bad the user skill is. I mean, if the user skill is insanely low and horrible and makes horrible decisions and hurts the players on the field, then yes, I mean, it could. Eventually, you could have a 90 team, but if you make all the wrong decisions and you're insanely aggressive and you're trying to force the ball down the field, you can hurt yourself. But if you turn and recognize where you're at as far as a user, you can kind of say, hey, let me not kill my team here. Let me build up my players, develop my players, and then give myself an opportunity to win. But I think players' ability is probably more prevalent in simulation mode than it is in competitive mode. At least my understanding of playing both of the modes. I feel like teams with higher overalls are a lot tougher to beat. Even if I feel like I have more user skill than the guy that I'm playing, you can struggle. I mean, if you look at the Seattle Seahawks, for one, that team is loaded. And Kyle's a good player, and he plays within himself. And I think that's the most important thing right now, is finding out what you can be good at and accentuating your positives and hiding your negatives. Don't come out there slinging the ball like you think you're Lip and you feel like, well, I have Ben Roethlisberger, let's say, or a comparable player. Well, maybe you don't have the field vision that Lip has. So essentially what happens is you're trying to throw the ball down the field and you're thinking it's just going to happen magically. No, you have to make the right reads. You have to play within yourself, go underneath, take what's given, and play some good defense and let your players show out. So it's a good mixed bag. If you have less user skill, you're going to need more higher players. And if you're somewhere in the middle, you know, the better your players are, the better it's going to make you look. So I think there's a lot of parity in the league and a lot of opportunity for players without the user skill to kind of grow and build their teams. And there is hope playing that way and just finding a rhythm that works for you.
Sonny's got his 2 picks right now, so I feel like it would be awesome just to throw it to him and just to
do it.
I mean, well, 40 picks.
Yeah. Let me pose it to you a little different.
I got it. I love it.
I was with you. I'm watching. I'm watching, waiting to see which punter he takes the 21 overall pick. Let me pose this to you a different way. Let's say you're one of those guys struggling to get out of the basement of the MBL. We've seen a lot of players come in, struggle in the MBL, and you see them take quarterbacks year after year. If you were in that position, I know it's hard to think about being bad at Madden. I know, but just attempt to get in the mind of somebody who has struggled here in the MBL. Is quarterback the first position you're looking at? Let's say you're a guy who struggles with throwing a whole lot of turnovers. At least my inkling, if I was one of those guys that struggles with turnovers passing the ball, because this game is very tough to pass the ball effectively, my first thought would be get as good of a defense as you can to pick you up. But am I wrong to think that? Is it right just to go out and just keep getting quarterbacks, keep getting wide receivers, and hoping they can make up for some poor decision making?
No, absolutely not. It's quite the opposite. I think that you have to look at your roster, and unless you're a really elite roster, you have to look at that and say, you have to be honest with yourself and say that this is lower or middle of the pack roster, and then you have to build it up. And the most important thing you can do is try to get better at something. And if you're not the best passer, try to find other things that you can develop within your skill set to get better at, and pick players in the draft that will enhance those skills that you're already good at. So if you have a top pick, I would always say, if you can, try to trade back and acquire. You might miss out on a star player if you do this. It just depends on the roster. But if you can build your roster everywhere else but quarterback, and just try to find a style that works with you and your roster, and build that team throughout that period, and then whenever the last thing you need is a quarterback, go and get one. We've seen that you can get them in free agency, you can get them in the draft, you can even trade for them. Sometimes the right guy is eligible for trade. It's just, that's the last thing that I would get, because passing can be hard, and this Madden is more difficult than any other Madden that we've seen, which I like, but it just makes it difficult for some people. But finding what you're good at, finding what your roster is built to do, is something that you have to look at and be honest with yourself, because just throwing into coverage, throwing 40 picks over and over, you're not getting better, and that's not helping anybody whenever you're doing the same thing over and over. You need to really be honest with yourself, build the right way, and take that quarterback last, in my opinion.
And here's where I differ from Lip. We actually have this discussion quite often. I think a lot of these players, they just need to kind of consolidate their route tree. I think they're trying to make reads and throws that they really aren't ready to make just yet. But I do want to say quarterback does matter, because you remember Trevor Siemian, and we all remember that MBL live game that Serp had. He had an open C route, an easy throw that 90% of the people in MBL can make, probably 100%. and Simeon overthrows. Now, if he invests in a better quarterback, is he necessarily going to get that much elevated in play? But no, you do know he can make that throw, and that was pretty much the difference in the game. You remember that game, OSU? That would have put him in field goal range, an opportunity to either tie or win. I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but he completely overthrew it, and he overthrew a lot of passes. Did he make a couple bad reads? Absolutely, but it's compiled when you make the right read, and it penalizes you because your quarterback's inaccurate. That's why I think it's always good to have a quarterback that can make all the throws, and even if you are a bad passer or you're not the best passer, you still need to have someone that's serviceable, and just saying, I don't need a quarterback because I can't throw. I think you do, but then don't blame the quarterback when you do have one. Try to work with what you got and say, hey, I got the quarterback that can make the throws. I need to just improve myself. So you have to kind of be reflective on whose fault it is, but also getting the players that can make all the throws is also important as well.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt you can't win without a quarterback. I just thought it was interesting. I'm also, if you see me looking up, I've got my third screen up there. I never noticed that I've got a draft ticker on my screen that actually has the players getting drafted. It's weird. I don't know who these players are. These some of them, it seems to be middle of the first round. I'm only getting a couple at a time, but it's weird. I don't know. I'm having a stroke over here. Don't worry. Sonny, I'm going to throw up a screenshot because I got one in from Buffalo who picked at number, I want to say 13. And Sonny, you and I have talked about this all the time. We've talked about safeties in the draft and how it seems like safeties are a dime a dozen, and using a high pick on a safety, unless it is some knock out of the park player, can be a waste. And the Bills and Homer at number 13 picked Dane Hoyt out of Nebraska. 77 overall, ranked 42 in true talent, 72 zone. He's 91 speed excel, which is of course good, but 72 zone, 71 man, 73 play rec. I think the quick development is helpful, but let's say it's even a slightly better play than this, Sonny. Safeties, are you even looking for that in the top 15? Because I always see the safeties going second half to the draft.
Hey, Lip, let me ask you a question. You're all-pro safety. What round did you draft him in?
That is exactly what I wanted to talk about. I'll wait until you're done, but
Jawara Forney? Yeah.
Jawara Forney was picked in the second round, 33rd or 32nd overall, or 32nd in the second round, and that was a player. We actually took two safeties back-to-back in the second and third round because we needed to fill that position. At that time, we needed a safety, so second and third round was what we wanted. First round, we went elsewhere because we value the first round way above what a safety's worth. We took those two safeties. We let them play out. Jawara Forney just absolutely exploded, has had double-digit interceptions both seasons. And that's why I think you need to wait on safety, absolutely, because I think a lot of guys can develop in that position.
Right. I completely agree with you, Lip. I think, you look at that safety that Homer drafted there, and yeah, he's got the knockout power. He's fast. He's, quick acceleration. He can't cover anything. So he's an in-the-box linebacker basically for a while until you can get that zone up. Because at this point, 72 zone coverage, I've got linebackers better than that. So I'm not sure you really trust him playing in a two-deep safety set. So I got a lot of questions about that. Obviously, we'll find out. AFC East, it's not like they're slinging it around out there. They're more of a running conference or a running division anymore. But I think Hoyt is going to struggle until they get that zone coverage up at least another 5 or 6 points.
Does the quick dev make the pick at all better? Does that negate some of the negatives of taking a safety like Hoyt at number 13?
Absolutely. If you're going to take a safety in the first round, I think Lip said, late second was probably the earliest he would probably take a safety if he absolutely needed one. He thought one had the ability to make big plays. But I think development is huge, Lip. I don't know about you, but if I got normal development, slow development, normal development to quick isn't, it's good because it's one step away from being fast, and you could always even buy superstar. One step away from being superstar. But if you get superstar, that's a game changer right there. If you can get a superstar development, it really changes the game and how you're going to develop a player.
I just want to throw this out here. Two drafts ago, there's three players here I want to talk about. Aaron Floyd for the New York Giants was selected at pick 24. We all know who was selected the next pick, Harvey Beckham. And Aaron Floyd, I don't know if he acquired fast development or if he was drafted at fast development, But right now he sits at 91 overall, and we go back to Jawara Forney. He's 98 overall, selected in the second round, late in the second round, and I know that he acquired his fast development. After playing so well, he did not come out fast development, so it was a normal development player in the second round. Just comparing that to a guy that was taken in the first round, he may have had fast development, but I think that those players, I think the safeties develop at a much quicker rate than other normal development players, which is why I think you can push that back to a later round. Because if you could get a fast development defensive tackle or corner or something else, I think that's a much greater asset to your team than the safety, because I think they can be developed even at normal, taken in the later rounds.
I did Bomber a favor here by throwing up the screenshot so the whole world didn't see his draft board, because I'm a gentleman like that. Hop, we got any questions in from the chat?
Yeah, we have a couple. Darth Ben 108 said, "Who is the worst first overall pick in NBL history?"
I don't know one, but I think I know two.
I know two. I know two.
Everybody knows two.
Everyone knows two. I'm trying to think.
It's an award.
It is an award. I'm trying to think.
The quarterback Train drafted last year?
Was he first?
Wasn't he first? I'm pretty sure, with the Packers.
Last year being...
Last cycle.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. We got a season cycle year. Got it, yeah. Here, I'll throw this up for people to... Bomber got it.
And then Kringer said, "Is there a team that could have a good enough draft to lift them into the playoffs this year?"
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yes. Let's. I don't think we've had too many bad number 1 overall picks. We have had a bad number 2 overall pick. We've had bad number 3s. I just, since I've been here, I don't think we've seen a real bad number 1 overall pick. We've seen players get drafted number 1 overall. I think talent-wise, we haven't seen a bad number 1 overall pick. Let me rephrase that. We've seen number 1 overall picks get drafted and end up being bust because they're on bad teams and get sort of thrown into bad situations. But I don't think we've had, like, why did they pick them at number 1? But I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember a number 1. I feel like there's been, like you said, there's been number 1s that there may have been a comparable player, but if you took either one in that spot and that's what you needed, it was a good pick for you. But like you said, I don't think there's been a truly bad number 1. We all know number 2. But
shout out to JY.
But number 1, I think most of the number 1s have been at least good picks.
Well, let's go to the second question, which is there a team that can have a good draft and it can make them? I think the answer is yes. So let's move on to the next question. Didn't ask what specific team. Sonny, who do you think you are one of the guys that I think watches free agency really closely? Is there a team that you saw in free agency that you think made some really nice moves and made them a markedly better squad?
Well, I think what you got was you got the Washington Redskins selling out to try to win a championship. I think obviously that interdivision rivalry with the New York Giants had made them maybe make some interesting choices as far as spending cash. They brought in 2 of the bigger free agents. They brought in the halfback Howard, and then they brought in Hassan Reddick, and they spent money in other places too. I think, didn't they even bring in Garoppolo as their backup?
Yeah.
So they really went all out in free agency
opinion
to try to win now.
I'm sorry, I was reading through screenshots as they come in. A lot of interesting players. Sonny, that Grant Cannon fella, he went to New Orleans at number 27. I'm gonna just queue up his card here. He did end up with that slow development trait, mostly because of that story that popped up where he, I don't know, it was something about he didn't show up to practice and somebody was mad at him. I am so sick of seeing slow development wide receivers, just because I have PTSD from Carolina when I drafted 3 straight slow development wide receivers, and it's really annoying. But this Grant Cannon fella looks pretty good, and Sonny, you were keen on that pretty early.
Yeah, he's a star. He's a star in the making. This Madden actually does some interesting stuff with wide receivers. You can find some really good 3rd or 4th round wide receivers, especially kind of that 6'4" body type. we see another one of those there going down to New Orleans. I think he could end up being the best wide receiver out of this draft if they can get that slow development up.
Yeah, his stats are up on the board. 89 speed, 92 excel, 85 catch out of the gate, 88 jump, 88 kit, and 89 spec catch. Bomber, you are the king of drafting wide receivers, as we saw you take another one at the end of the first round. Getting a wide receiver young with this good talent out of the gate, you have an opportunity to really develop him into a star.
Yeah, you look at Grant Canyon. Actually, his stats are very nice, and he kind of reminds me of that receiver I had last Madden 17. He ended up signing with your team, the Panthers. Let's see if you can remember his name.
Steven Katula.
Katula, absolutely. He reminds me a lot of Katula. Katula was solid. He just didn't get enough run. So I ended up not signing him because he wanted a big deal. He was a wide out receiver. He just was stuck in the slot because I had Ridgeway and DeGear. So I think he's very comparable to Katula right now. I think Grand Canyon, I call him Grand Canyon because it almost sounds exactly like it. And I think he's got an opportunity to make a mark there next to Michael Thomas. They have Tyson Woods over there, another young prospect wide receiver. They got a pretty decent tight end, and they signed O.J. Howard, right? So, this Saints, Ross Bonham has to be licking his chops right now thinking, I got a lot of targets over there. I got a lot of opportunities to spread this ball around. I led the league in passing yards last year. Might be a back-to-back sensational season for Ross Bonham. He might have a coming-out party here in the MBL.
I just want to comment on that.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is bad at all. Slow development, I haven't really had that much experience with that, especially at wide receiver, but I strongly believe that, like, a lot of people will look at that 89 speed and be like, it's kind of not a good player, but I've had players at 96 speed with, kind of just very average route running, catching, and awareness. And then I had a guy, Eli Rogers, who was 88 speed and I think 90 acceleration, was a much better player. And that's another thing with this Madden. Madden's just kind of gotten away from speed being the overpowering attribute. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. Like I said, I don't know about the slow development, but I think this is a very good wide receiver. They got O.J. Howard. We talked about on Commissioner Corner last night that the Saints has an excellent defense, one of the best defenses in the league. Their offense just kind of falls flat in the playoffs. So now with this addition, Grant Canyon and O.J. Howard, like Bomber said, Ross Bottom has to be extremely excited about how this offseason has gone.
I just threw up another wide receiver up on the screen. You guys probably saw that seamless transition. Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, my goodness.
This guy is real good. 96, 96, superstar Dev Lib. How does Playa keep drafting such good players? And he gets superstar Dev out. This guy's going to be bonkers.
The draft guru in the MBL strikes again. Playa, man. He knows how to get it done. Man, wow. Just phenomenal run this cycle in drafting players. He's either the luckiest man in the MBL right now, or he's got some kind of system over there that's working that he won't give up. I'm asking him, give me that system. I'm even willing to go as far as paying him for it. But he says he doesn't know. He says it's all luck, and he laughs, and I feel like he's lying. But another great pick from Playa, the owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Playa absolutely knows what he's doing in these drafts. I've watched this now, 3 drafts this cycle. This guy always, even deep into the draft, this guy's taking guys that are excellent depth players. And Playa, he's been playing Madden for quite a while, if you didn't know. So I think he's got plenty of experience adapting to new Maddens. And this is no different. He's figured out how to find the top players. And this dude, I cannot believe it. This is an absolute star. I'm really excited for him in this pick.
Sonny, you and I were talking about wide receivers last night, and we were talking about speed versus acceleration and how you'd rather have a guy with a faster acceleration than necessarily top speed. What's your opinion on a guy 96 superstar Dev?
Well, I would say he's going to be a 99 if he's on a good offensive attack. We'll see. 96 it's pretty legit. What Beckham come out at, Bomber?
Beckham, it was 97-92.
Okay. So, this guy's got a chance to possibly be faster. They both cap at 99, but that acceleration, little quicker, giddy up
no,
there
not
maybe.
possible.
So
Negative.
So we'll see how that goes.
Dude, HB's got the billboard. He's got the shoes. He's got everything, man.
What you guys
Nobody
doing
can
over
be
there in
faster than
Detroit?
HB18.
Like, there's a lot of I've been driving through the cities of Detroit. I haven't seen any of that. I must be missing these streets.
We're taking them down. We put them up
Got it.
during just high traffic time. We take them down.
That's gonna cost a lot of money.
They can't. No, they can't. The city's paying for these billboards, but they can't afford them for 24 hours. They put them up during traffic time. Give people something to look at. They take them down. They bring them up. They take them down, and that's what that's what the league's trying to do. They're trying to take Beckham down. That's why he's been getting hurt. They've been targeting him. We've been putting in complaints to the league. We got a lot of things going on in Detroit right now, but if you haven't seen the billboard, you just ain't been in the right spot at the right time. I mean, that's really just on you, OSU. You got to do a better job finding where the cool guys hang out, because that's where you're finding.
I'm not allowed where the cool guys hang out. They definitely don't let me there. The comic book shop is where I'm allowed to be, but nowhere where the cool kids hang out. Let's reset everything for everybody just joining us here on the MBL Network. This is our Season 30 MBL Rookie Draft, and I know we're going to get a lot of questions about it. It's Season 30, not 30 in this game, but what are we in? This is the fifth season of this game?
Fifth.
We're heading into the fifth of this cycle, 30th overall. A lot of people are like, how did you get to 30, you cheaters? Yeah, well, it's just overall through all the games. And again, get your questions in the chat. Tag at Hopology TV in the chat if you want your question, or if you want to talk about any of the teams here in the MBL. I know we got a lot of fans out there of specific teams in the MBL. If you're over watching on YouTube, come on over to the Twitch, twitch.tv/MBL Network. You can ask your questions here. But if you got any teams you want to talk about, we can talk about them. Any particular players that get drafted, we'll keep watching for those. So far, we're, middle of the second round here. Bomber, this draft, I was looking at the draft board. I am perpetually confused, and I've talked about a lot of people with this in the league, but since not everybody in the league is watching this, there are a lot of people out there who aren't in our league. I'm surprised to see how much first and second round talent there is in these drafts, and how much sixth and seventh round talent. I feel like there's a gap in the middle here. Am I the only one that sees a big gap in third, fourth, and fifth round talent?
Yeah, there is, and sometimes it's when they say there's a lot of depth at certain positions. Oftentimes in Madden, that means there's a lot of first-round talent that'll probably be there in the second round. And, outside of that, it really does drop off. It's hard to find players that you go, oh, well, that guy's pretty good. He has a couple deficiencies here, but he can be solid for me. Good third-round pick. In the NFL, you see a lot of third-round talents that come out to be pretty decent players. In the MBL, in Madden, you really don't, especially if you have guys drafting, especially a 32-man user league. It's hard to find those good third-round steals. You kind of like just picking in the dark and picking blind by that point. And they probably need to do a better job of that, finding the ones that really are situational players as a rookie, or even someone that you can actually develop that have that upside later in their career. I absolutely agree with that. I think it's a lot top-heavy, but there are some steals at the very end, especially at the safety position. That's one of those ones we talked about earlier. You can find a starter, maybe even a day one starter for your team in the 6th or 7th round sometimes at safety.
I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of picking, so continue to talk about your thoughts on third and fourth round talent.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, I don't think that speed is one of those things that makes or breaks a player. I think good players at 88 speed, 89 speed can be great players if they fit in the right system. So I think that's one thing that a lot of people look at whenever they're selecting players. So I think that making that range wider has allowed for that talent to be better. And each draft is different. Last draft, I think we had 6 or 7 quarterbacks that were first round talent, and I think 6 or 7 went in the first round. And this year, I think there was one, great guy. There might be a couple that come out later in the draft, but that's just how each draft can change. It's different every year, and that's what makes it so exciting. And that's why you have to be good at evaluating this talent to be able to draft. And that's why guys like Playa, who can really find the great guys in all 7 rounds, that's why they can make their teams really good at the starter level and at the depth level for every position.
Yeah, Timbo in the chat was asking if I was seeing stars. Nope, just my draft screen's up there.
OSU, there is a pick, should be coming up in the email. It's from Homer that I would really like to talk about if we could bring that up at some point.
Mr. Withrow?
Mr. Withrow. It was Homer's second round pick. I absolutely went off on Homer and the Bills last night on Commissioner Corner podcast. I said you were cheap on Matt Ryan, you were cheap on Big Ben, and you were sitting here without a quarterback. Bags went to the Rams early in the first round, and the Bills were like, oh my gosh, we don't know what we're going to do, but I was fooled. They knew exactly what they were going to do. Look
there
at
he
this
is,
guy.
Christian Withrow.
Christian Withrow, quick development, 91 throw power. Pretty good accuracies. Short's a little down, but 22 years old, they found their guy.
I don't know if I've ever seen short accuracy be that low compared to
it's weirdly low, but the thing is, that's easily brought up, and with the deep and the medium already being in the 80s, that's a great pick. Homer, I am sorry for all the things that I said about the Buffalo Bills and their questions at quarterback, because this is an absolutely amazing pick for the second round. I am so proud of that. And congratulations on having Withrow at quarterback for the Bills.
Commissioner Corner's podcast continue to influence the draft. I'm trying to think back.
Actually, there was a trade that almost went down between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins before the Rams leapfrogged the Philadelphia Eagles to get that number 1 selection. The Bills almost traded pick 7 and pick 13 to try to move to 1. And they were going to draft Bags, and it didn't. It fell through at the last minute. I actually had some insider information on that trade. The Dolphins ended up declining it, and they instead went with the Los Angeles Rams, which they got pick 1 from them, which moved them to 3, and they got a second round this year and a second next year. But they almost traded that, so they almost got their quarterback in Bags. But I think it kind of works out with Withrow. I mean, anybody with the word "throw" in their name and they're a quarterback, that's a positive.
Sonny, how's that? I got to throw to Sonny right now because he just drafted Mr. Humble, which is shout out to
let's just say Humble again.
Humble. Mr. Humble. I was between him and the tackle that I drafted. I gotta ask, what is his strength? Is it 78?
It is 85.
Really?
Yep.
He did like 28 reps.
I know. I freaked out. I couldn't believe it. He's 77 run block, 81 pass block, 84 impact. He's going to end up being my replacement to my right guard after next season.
I want to ask a question. So, what do you guys think about strength versus the ratings of run and pass block?
Which good topic.
Which do you place more value on? Because I've seen really strong guys with low blocking grades play very well, and then I've also seen low strength guys with good blocking also play well. I am kind of in the middle. I really can't decide. I've had guys that I've kind of tried out, and I'm still. I really haven't decided, so I'd like to hear some of you guys' input on this topic, because
Sonny has
I really don't know.
Very, we were talking about this. Sonny, what is your opinion on strength versus the actual tendencies? I don't know what you call
so as far as linemen go, I think anything lower than maybe 83, 84 strength, you have a deficiency, because apparently, and I can't confirm this has to do with disengage of blockers. So low strength basically allows those guys to disengage upfield. So you'll feel like you have a good angle, and then all of a sudden the guy's just in the backfield or going around your blocker. So you want to have good strength. It helps with that.
Lip, your thoughts. I'm picking right now. I look like an idiot just looking at I had 3 second-round picks.
Focus on your draft. I've always been hesitant to trust a guy with the low strength. But like I said, I have a guy on my roster right now. I think he's 94 strength, but his pass block and run block, I think we're both in the high 70s. I think 77. And every time I've played him, he's played extremely well. That mid 90s strength, I think, has really kept him playing well. And I don't know if that has to do with the whole, the 90 plus is elite. I wasn't really sure, because those are two very different things that impact how a player plays. But like I said, I've seen it both ways, and I've seen guys use mid 80s, even kind of lower 80s, like Sonny said, a little bit above that 83, 84 mark, and still play very well. So I was just interested to see what you guys had to say about that.
I've heard a lot of I've heard Sonny Weaver's musings on strength. I've also heard people talk about how the difference between strength and the pass block, run block is strength has more to do with being pushed back If you have a lower strength, the pocket's going to close around you if you have a bunch of weak guys. Whereas the actual pass block, run block is more about being able to hold your block in those specific situations. Here's the one thing I do believe, and we were talking about this with the center that the Falcons ended up getting in free agency, which was I think interior linemen. I don't think it is quite as necessary. The pass block and run block is more important, I think, on the interior guys than the strength, because you have two big guys, especially centers. You have two guards around you to help you. But tackles, too many times, on one hand, I think strength is important. On the other hand, too many times I've had slower guys that may have high strength, 86, 87, but if the left end and right end is quicker than you, you're going to get beat every time. So I don't think speed gets looked at enough on the offensive line. But I could be wrong. Pop, we got any questions from the chat?
Just one from IC3. So which style of halfback is more effective, speed backs or power backs?
Don't ask Bomber. He doesn't know how to run the ball. Got him! Right there while he's flipping through his draft board, which I didn't help him out by hiding.
Well, somebody already took somebody else going to take because they're looking at it. I mean, who doesn't have a first-round pick? That's the person that needs to be streaming.
Oh, that was me.
And the Saints are going to pay for that.
I would have, but we did one of those times. Remember when we tried producing and playing? It wasn't good. Like the
the house set on fire.
It was not pretty.
To go back to that halfback question, we saw Marlon Petway absolutely explode in playoffs. 89 speed, 87 excel, 85 agility. He's got high 80s, trucking and juke stuff, but he doesn't really fall into either category. But I guess I would say that it really doesn't matter to be a speed back, because I would rather have the power to be able to fall forward than to try to get outside, because I don't think getting outside really, it's nowhere near as effective as it has been in past Maddens. If you look at Madden 25 to now, that has completely changed, and guys like Marlon Petway at 89 speed, 87 excel, 85 agility are still extremely effective. So I would like to always have the kind of power back that even if he gets stuffed at the line, maybe he falls forward and can power through at least one tackler, and maybe you're in 2nd and 8 as opposed to 2nd and 11.
Sonny, I'll ask you that. To the speed back versus power back, I just think that so much depends on feel. I have played with some very speedy backs. Oakland, I have Jalen Richard, who I guess is considered much more of a speed back than anything, and I like playing with him. I have tried running with guys who are 92, 93, 94, even higher speeds. And at times you do sort of feel like you're driving that car with too much acceleration, like you just end up out of balance. But at the same time, you've had Derrick Henry, who is much more of a power back, and you've had success with him, but he still I mean, again, I think people, when they think of power backs, they think of no speed. They're thinking Jerome Bettis and what I could only assume was 64 speed. Yeah, but I think that you've had much more of a power back, and you found success with him.
Yeah, I think Henry's a nice combination of power and a little bit of speed. I think 88 is kind of where I like to be, 88 speed acceleration kind of area. And I think for power backs, that's on the higher side, because you don't see many of the drafted power backs coming out with that kind of speed and acceleration. They tend to be like mid-80s acceleration, which is something I'm not a huge fan of. But when you start looking at some of these faster backs, I'm kind of with you, OSU. I think you almost overrun your hole, because it's like you're not used to getting there quite that quickly. Not to segue too bad off this topic,
sure.
But I just like to point out Eric and the New Orleans Saints have drafted 2 wide receivers. They already have 6 wide receivers on their roster of like 77 or better. So I'm really not sure what his plan is.
I'll pull up the Saints offseason card in a second. I just pulled up the graphic sent from JY for the Arizona Cardinals, and as is every graphic with JY, there's a lot of bells and whistles on this bad boy. There's a lot of information to digest on this, but taking that cornerback Langford Heath, I'm looking all around. I don't know when he took him. I think it was first round. It was probably first round, right? I'll scroll all the way back up in my draft.
If that's the corner, he went in the first round.
It is the corner.
That's a good pick, too.
Yeah, 95 speed, 90 excel, 79, 78.
At 6'2", 6'2", 95 speed. That's a heck of a player.
compare these Cardinals to being good, mostly because the NFC West, I feel like, it's a division filled with young teams. We saw the 49ers just absolutely explode last year. Fell off at the end of the year, but had an unbelievable season. October ended up winning Most Improved Owner. With the Seattle Seahawks presumably at some point taking some step back. I feel like this Cardinals team has talent. It's just a matter of putting it together in the actual game.
Well, I think that they did the right thing here in getting a corner. There's two sides to this. I think they did the right thing getting a corner. It helps their defense. They were 23rd in yards last season, 9th in points, so they're better than, you know, some of the bottom teams at holding teams to, you know, just 20 points a game. But the thing is, they were 28th against the run, and I think if they locked down that run game, they would be a lot better. But still, 6-10 in that division that is getting a lot better. It got a lot better tonight with the Rams taking bags. I think, like you said, they have a lot of talent, but this is what I would do if I was the Cardinals. David Johnson's gone over 1,000 yards, I think, 3 straight seasons. The dude's an absolute monster. You run the ball, play some defense, I think that you could win a lot more games. The question is in their passing offense. Just 118 yards on average, 32nd in the MBL. That's not very good, but they're one of the best teams rushing the ball with David Johnson, 105 yards a game, 3rd in the MBL. So I think if you just ride David Johnson until he can't go anymore and play some defense, that corner helps a lot, 6'2", 95 speed. It's going to be a great addition to this team. I think they can win a lot more games now with that pick.
I'm going to pull up, I got this pulled up right here. This is what the New Orleans Saints did in the offseason. And you were talking about the wide receivers, Sonny, that they have on there. I was actually really impressed. I think these guys Eric made some really interesting moves in the offseason. Alvin Kamara leaves. Kamara was buried in that depth chart at running back. Tevin Coleman starting there. Kamara, I think, ended up at 3rd string. They bring in O.J. Howard, who I was surprised, Sonny, O.J. Howard's an athletic tight end. He's definitely a younger tight end. I was surprised to see how much bidding there was on him. I don't know about you, but in a draft that was so tight end heavy, I thought O.J. Howard's value would be taken down a notch.
You know, you look at his stats, and they're not great, and his actual attributes are pretty good, but I'm surprised that they gave that much money to him. That's going to have to be a focus of their offense. I know they struggled at times last year in the playoffs to actually move the ball, so maybe that's their thought, is they need that safety blanket. But when you talk about the wide receivers, they've got 6 wide receivers with 4 years experience in the league or less. They've got 6 of them, and they're all rated 75 or over. So they are just loaded at wide receiver, and now this draft they just added 2 more. They can't carry all those wide receivers, but they can only cut one of those under MBL rules. So they're going to carry 7 wide receivers into the start of the season next year.
The only thing I want to point out about the Saints is they rely too much on Michael Thomas. He had 1,300 yards, 11 touchdown receptions. The next wide receiver was Chad Hansen at 600 yards. So I think drafting wide receiver helps. They bring in O.J. Howard. They had Trey O'Connor as their 2nd leading receiver at tight end. 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. So I think that this is a great move because they have such a strong defense. If they help that offense, Ross Bottom's going to be unstoppable.
Well, Lip, go look at those wide receivers, though. I don't think the wide receivers are the problem. I kind of like a lot of those wide receivers. Kind of younger guys. To me, I'm a fan.
Okay. So I'll look at this, and if they have really good wide receivers, a great quarterback, now they bring in O.J. Howard and these new additions in this draft, I'll look at their rushing offense, 29th in the MBL. Would you argue, because I could see this argument, would you argue they should definitely go, because this is such a deep offensive line draft, go offensive line. They have Tevin Coleman, but he only had 600 yards last season. Would you argue, get that offensive line, maybe a halfback later in the draft, and build up that line so you can run the ball, control the game on offense, and dominate the game on defense?
Well, I definitely think they whiffed on not going out and getting an offensive line.
Yeah,
we saw Terran Armstead get turnstiled in that playoff game. I think, wasn't it Ziggy Ansah that just basically kept running by him like nothing? It was kind of embarrassing, and they let Armstead go, and I'm not sure they really replaced him at any level. Larry Warford, the problem with Larry Warford is he's got like 50 speed. So as OSU pointed out earlier, you are going to just get freaking demolished by speed rushers.
Okay, I gotta respond to this in the chat because I'll bring Bomber in here for this one because I know Bomber likes doing this stuff. Old DB, the old Brawlies to Darks, said to throw up his first 2 picks and say he won the draft already.
Probably did.
So,
what do they look like? Are we throwing them
Let's
up?
throw them up here. This is the first pick the Broncos took. I don't know his name. Shout out to Hold A to reorder. I think it's Nick Brooks. Cornerback, 93-91 speed excel, 89 man, 82 zone, 74 play rec, normal dev. This was the pick that the Broncos got from the Atlanta Falcons, so it was 8th overall, I believe. Good value. I think good value. I'm not blown away by the stats. I think the 93-91 is very good. 89 man is certainly a great place to start. I would have, in terms of winning the draft, I would have liked to see at least a quick dev on this guy. But Bomber, I think he's a solid player.
That's a good pick, man. I mean, to get 16th to pick a cornerback like that, 89 man, 82 zone, that's over the 81 threshold. So he's going to be giving you some love there. 89 agility, not too low, and starting with 84 press, 23 years old. We got about 3 to 4 seasons left in this Madden cycle. That's a good pick. I mean, won the draft, I don't know, but that's a really good pick. Something that you're going to be starting day one. So
yeah, this is their second pick. This was their actual pick that they owned.
Okay.
The first one that they took was this right end. Blackburn. 78 overall, 86 strength, 87 block shed, 85 power move. 70 speed as a right end, 4-3 run stopper. I don't know what I think the Broncos typically tend to be in that 4-3 set. I think the assertion of won the draft is probably stretching, especially when at number 8 overall, getting a 78 overall guy with 70 speed on the end. I don't know if I'm particularly excited about that. He's a good player. I don't know if it says right there, you reached. I don't think you win at that point.
Yeah,
Doughboy in the chat, by the way, said that's a wasted 8.
No, those are fine picks. I mean, as long as you don't, they're not going to be, the best in the draft, but I mean, not bad picks. A good solid first round for the Denver Broncos, and they're the kings of hype, so they're going to hype up their team as if they've drafted the top of the league. But obviously, that wasn't that great of a pick at 8, but I do like the cornerback at 16. I think that was a really, really good pick. If the 8th pick would have been some kind of stud and a steal, he might have a legitimate argument. But right now, obviously, a little biased opinion here from Dark Brawler about his own team. And, I mean, that's how the majority of most people roll anyway. So a lot of picks. I see a lot of picks coming into the email.
I think that the Broncos, I wouldn't say they won the draft, but I think they did a lot of good things because they were 30th in rush defense. I think that left end helps. You play the Chargers, and apparently they have a pretty good running back. So I think anything that helps improve that run defense. The Denver Broncos have improved each season by 2 wins. They're looking to do it again and go to 10-6. That might put them in a wild card spot. So helping that rush defense with that defensive end, and then you bring in that corner. I think those are great moves. I don't know if it wins the draft, but they're great moves for the Broncos.
Sonny, did you happen to see who the Los Angeles Chargers took in the first round?
I can't remember his name, OSU, but it's that defensive end we were talking about last night.
Yeah, they went after a defensive end.
Yeah, they got that freak guy that had like 38 reps as a defensive end.
I don't want to talk about Gub.
We're gonna talk about
kind of a killer draft pick there at the last pick.
Gub, you made me mad. Brings.
So shout out, that was cool.
He should forfeit his pick.
An undersized screenshot? That seems
for signing Malik McDowell.
Got it.
And bringing in this fella.
Paul Holloman.
Yeah.
90 strength on the edge, 6'3", 302, 84 block shed, 84 excel, 73 speed, 87 tackle. God, I will trade anyone the Raiders to not play against Gub anymore. I'm really tired of this defensive line, Sonny, and now Joey Bosa. They get rid of Melvin Ingram. I'm like, there's hope! Nope, they bring in this guy who appears to be a monster.
Yeah, this guy's a freak. We talked about it last night. He basically can do it all at 90 strength and with 84 block shed. This guy is going to wreck some offensive lines. I hope you got good tackles, OSU.
No comment. Dark Brawler saying, I don't need this. Shout out to Andre4190 in the chat. You guys love the sound of your own voices. We do. And we appreciate you tuning in and giving us that view, bud. We're sitting here middle of the 3rd round now. As I'll throw up that draft one more. I'm gonna pose a question to everybody here. We'll start with Bomber. It's a question that's been asked over and over because of the reception of this particular game. We know the negativity surrounding Madden this season. We in the MBL have tended to be more on the positive side than other people. But there's, of course, things that we would like to see fixed. So, Bomber, if you could have one thing, no matter what, in the next game, of the list of things I think we've all talked about, what's the one thing that you want to see from the game at EA Play in June?
Let me see. I'll just go with the obvious, I guess. You know, you want to. I think they did a lot on man coverage this year. It's actually usable, at least in our league. I feel like it is. You know, you're not breaking off corner routes. I think they did a good job there. But I'd like to see a difference in the way safety coverage is. I like to see superstar players making those superstar jumps. I know Lipsky does it, and there's a couple other that do it, but there's no middle ground. It's either they're elite and they're 96 and they're jumping. They'll jump the middle post. But I would also like, I just want safety play to be a little bit better. I like to be able to run a cover 2 zone and have my safeties play inside and to where they take away the post, and maybe they're more susceptible to give up a C route or some kind of breaking corner route, right? As opposed to just playing it the same every time in which the post is pretty much open unless I user one and take it away. So mine would pretty much be safety play if I had to choose one as far as gameplay goes, definitely right now.
Lip, your number one thing you'd like to see in the next game?
I think I'd like to see, and they took a great step this cycle, I think. And Sonny and I have talked about this so many times, and it's always the great debate about 4-3 versus 3-4. In the past, just in our opinion, we've felt that 3-4 was a little difficult to get pressure. It seemed like the tackles just swallowed up the outside linebackers, and then the guards double teamed the defensive ends, and the center was able to manhandle the defensive tackle all by himself. And they took a great step this man. The elite pass rushers are able to get much more pressure in the 3-4. But I would just like to see, I think it needs a little bit more. They've taken care of the outside. I think they've done a great job with the outside. Now I want to see the inside be a little better, because I still feel like the elite defensive tackles are kind of taken down by average middle of the road centers and guards. I just want to see, just in my opinion from our experience through MBL, I think that pass rush from 4-3 on the inside is a lot better than 3-4. I just would like to see that kind of balance out a little bit. But like I said, I think they took a great step with this man on the outside. I would just like to see the defensive tackles to be able to be a little bit more effective, I think, in the next Madden.
Yeah, before I throw it to Sonny, I was thinking of what my number one thing is. I think there's one thing that infuriates me about this game, Lip, and I don't know if you've noticed it because you have a good team. The fact that I feel like there are so many times where, as we're looking through the Detroit Lions schedule, which is fun to watch.
Soft. I'm just kidding.
Well, you just saw Fry and JY up there and yell soft. Hey, week 10,
no,
put us NBL Live. We got Steelers Lions. Got to be on NBL Live.
I am perpetually infuriated, at least from my own offensive line, watching blitzes of 5, 6, 7 men get picked up and 4-man rushes from a cover 3 get through. And I don't understand if I'm just, there's that phenomenon where if you just think you think it's one of those things that's happening all the time, but it actually isn't. You just remember all the times that does happen. I feel like 4-man rushes in this game, not as much as Madden 17, but in this game, 4-man rushes, I feel way more comfortable getting pressure in that than setting any sort of blitz over the top.
Yeah, and I'm double A in the chat says 4-3 is for sure better. Our own Hop saying 3-4 is so much better. So maybe I run a 3-4. I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NBL. I run a 3-4.
Nice to meet you.
I don't go away from that, but I do think whenever I have the 4-down linemen out there sometimes, I think that they are more effective. But like you said, it is confusing to see you have 5 linemen and there's 7 guys coming, and
Really?
There's 7 guys coming all at the quarterback, and they're just picked up. And it just seems like even if you have a very intelligent pass rusher or a linebacker coming in on the blitz, that he just kind of gravitates towards a lineman. It's almost like he wants to get picked up, and that's kind of confusing. But like I said, from last man to this man, they've made a tremendous improvement on defense and man coverage, safety play. It could be a little better. I think they had it right before. Maybe they patched it a little bit. But as well as pass rushing, I just think that there's a couple things that you could improve on. But overall, I think that the pass rushing things with just general pass rush and the blitz could see some improvements.
Yeah, you're seeing in the chat something that's pretty much indicative of this conversation is some people are saying 4-3, some are saying 3-4. Like if we go back 2 Maddens ago, everybody's going to say, 3-4 was horrible.
Yeah.
Right? You couldn't get no pressure, at least in MBL. Now, if you're watching and be like, no, it's not. You got to, well, there's rules to MBL in which, as far as movement, players and moving chess pieces that aren't allowed. So in MBL, I mean, it would probably be unanimous. 3-4 was horrible. Everybody's trying to switch out of 3-4 to be 4-3. And now you have people finding ways to work 3-4 and it's working. So I think it's very depending on your team, your scheme, and the players that you have, what you enjoy more. Because some people are saying 4-3 hands down, other people saying 3-4 for sure. So that's a good thing, I would think, if I'm EA and I'm looking at this and going, okay, well, people are finding success in both, and just depends what fits your team, and that would probably be the answer that you're going for. And that's all I have to say about that.
Stinger 1824 saying, I feel like the 4-3 def is better at stopping the run than 3-4, but 3-4 is a little better at getting pressure on the quarterback. I think it's a good sign that as you said, Bomber, it's a good sign that there's this mix of opinions. It is, as long as it's not very obviously skewed one way, at least that shows balance within the game. I know Sonny just picked, as we vamped through his pick at number 86, as people have pointed out in the draft, this is by far the fastest draft we've ever had, because we're not pausing or stopping or anything, which is absolutely delightful. We'll actually get to bed at a reasonable time tonight. Sonny, I know you with the 4verts Twitter have had many different things that you would like added to the game, some CFM related, some gameplay related. What is the number one for you in terms of your wish list?
Well, I can't be Sonny Weaver if I don't go kind of the team management side of things. It's got to be improved capability to manage your team, and that comes down to things like contract renegotiation, extensions before contracts are up, to kind of reorganize that contract, free up cap, push it to funds, signing bonus, front load, back load. Just give us more flexibility to really design our budgets and structure in a way that lets us make some moves. Because I think right now it's very linear, and it really doesn't let guys that want to dig in deep into contract structures and planning 2 and 3 years down the line, it doesn't let those guys really show what they can do.
I'm trying to think through.
Wait. So Sonny says if he has the opportunity for this, where he's really truly going to shine, huh? Giving those players those guarantees and taking them away last second. Hey, I thought I was guaranteed this money. You renegotiated with me, buddy. I don't pay you that for 20 years. I got you on a 20-year extension. No, but I agree with Sonny. That would be a great feature. My only issue, Sonny, that I worry about personally, every time I think EA adds something, I think, well, what if it's broke? I can only imagine, Sonny, you renegotiating a contract with someone. Oh, man, I can't believe he took it, and then next year he's in the free agent pool. And then we go, well, what happened to the renegotiation?
My first thought, again, here in the MBL, and to each their own, but here in the MBL we have a very specific rule set, and I'm thinking if they add that, the contract rules that may have to be added once exploits are found by no other than Sonny Weaver, I'm thinking through that. Here's the one thing I would love. I would love, and it seems silly, and I'm going to go very specifically to CFM. I would love offensive and defensive coordinators, and make scheme something that is important when you're drafting players. Because this draft, I could draft a 3-4 defensive end, put him in a 4-3, he's still going to be pretty solid. I would love to see much more emphasis on scheme and getting offensive and defensive coordinators and having those be more important to the CFM. Because I feel like that's a huge part, and part of it is me being in Detroit and hearing Detroit sports radio and the talk. I mean, nobody talks about Matt Patricia is great hire and everybody's happy about that. But the big talk was all about Jim Bob Cooter and what he does with Matt Stafford and how big of an influence he is on Matt Stafford and how Matt Stafford has been penalized by having 3 different offensive coordinators in 4 years. And I would be interested to see that in this game where you see quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, or any quarterback who is not one of the Elite Four, you fire your offensive coordinator. You're doing multiple offensive coordinator changes. They get penalized because of that. I think that would add a depth to the game that would be really interesting, and I don't
All right. Let's say they add that. I want to ask Sonny this question. Over and under at 10, how many offensive coordinators would Playa have already fired at this point in the cycle?
Playa was the one you went with? Really?
I'm more worried about
Deca.
Deca. I think Deca. After every season fires.
Offensive coordinator, what the hell are you doing? You're fired.
Exactly.
You haven't even played a game yet. He's already fired.
He's in practice mode, not liking it. What's up with this, bro?
I think that OSU made a great point. And I saw a similar thing in Pittsburgh. We all know Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator there. A lot of people loved Bruce Arians. He went on to be a head coach, and that he was replaced by Todd Haley, which Ben Roethlisberger had a lot of issues with Todd Haley. They tried it for so long, it hasn't really worked out. But even from a commissioner's standpoint, we've always talked about when you want to move a player, it has to kind of make sense to move them to that position and try to play that. So I would love that.
Yeah.
Whoever, I think it was OSU, brought up the point that if I'm playing a very light-weighted linebacker at defensive end, I feel like he should just get, there should be a penalty to one side or the other because he's really not built for that position. I think that would add a true level of realism to this game because the emphasis on the physical abilities should be something that's more important because you can play people completely out of position and it doesn't really make sense, but it still works because it is a video game.
Yeah, Porter wants to throw a Redskins graphic up. I'll queue up one of the Redskins picks in the email in just a second. The other part of that I think would be really interesting. The name that comes to mind in the NFL is Pat Shurmur, a guy who was a head coach in Cleveland, and I watched him. He looked so lost on the sidelines, made so many mistakes, was absolutely horrible, then ended up being this top candidate because he was an offensive coordinator out in Minnesota, and he really fit in that role. And there are a lot of guys, I mean, you talk about Todd Haley, a guy who I think is built to be a coordinator. I would love to have the ability to hire offensive coordinators as head coaches, or bring in a head coach. We saw North Turner go from head coach in San Diego to offensive coordinator in Cleveland. I don't know how it would work. I know that logistically in a video game, that's sort of weird to figure out how you balance that, and you have to get to a point first where you have the ability to have offensive defensive coordinators. But I think that would be really interesting to have offensive defensive coordinators, be able to hire them in as head coaches or head coaches in at offensive coordinators and see that have some sort of effect on the team.
And the other thing is, I think that sometimes there's coordinators for offensive and defense, but that's built for the team in the NFL and real life. Well, when you play Madden, some guys' playing style doesn't really fit that. Like if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm just saying this because I have experience with them. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're not really one way or the other in terms of pass or run, you would have to adjust to what your coordinators would be if you weren't, if you as a player did not fit them. If you had a passing attack and you were more of a run guy, you would want to get different coordinators in there to fit your style of team and how you build your roster. And I think that could make the league deeper in terms of realism as building your team to fit you and your play style.
These screenshots from Tyler Porter, owner of the Washington Redskins. This was the second pick. The Redskins had 2 picks in the first round. I believe this is the second on the right end. Pierce Byers, 89 strength, 78 block shot, 88 power moves. Definitely a bigger guy on the end. 6'6", 308. Bomber, this Redskins team has been one you've harped on a lot about finding an identity. And I guess my question is, can you find that identity through the players? And I'll throw up the offseason card because they had a lot of players they brought in. Do bringing in these players have any effect on the identity itself, or is it all just about gameplay and finding out what makes your team tick? Because this guy, Pierce Byers, seems like a good player. I just don't know if he really adds a whole lot. This is their second round pick. Adds a whole lot in terms of the identity issue in Washington.
Well, yeah. Okay, so identity issue to me, when I always talked about the Washington Redskins, it wasn't necessarily always about their personnel. I thought they were talented and had a good personnel, a good group of roster on their team. But my main issue was they weren't utilizing that roster in any way that really they could say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. So if you have a right outside linebacker and he's a pass rusher, but you're always dropping him into coverage and you're always, a cover 3 drop, cover 2 drop, and you're just using him as a coverage guy, therefore you lack identity as a team when you're not utilizing the pieces that you have. I thought their roster's always been good. I've been big on Belisari. I think he's a good quarterback. I was even big on Perrine, and I just don't see this team really, when I watch them, and it might change this season, really just showing, hey, this is what we're doing. We're power run. We're pass. No, it just seems like we're going to run the ball a little bit, and if we get behind enough, we're going to start trying to pass the ball. But even passing the ball, they don't seem too comfortable. I think when Washington's at their best, the third quarter, they're up a score, or they're up a score or two, or they're down a score. But once they go down multiple scores, they completely lose their identity. They go away from everything that they're trying to establish when they go into the game, and that's what I mean by identity. They quickly go away from what they're good at, and they always just find themselves running on downs where I'm scratching my head, and then passing on downs where I'm like, why aren't you running here? You just had success running. It's more for me on the offensive end of the ball for Washington.
Yeah, and Lip, I pulled up the offseason card. We saw, the losses, Josh Norman, Samaje Perine, all guys who've been with Washington for a while. They bring in Jordan Howard and Hassan Reddick, 2 guys they paid a lot of money to. And let's focus on Jordan Howard because of who they took in the first round. This is their left tackle. They took DeAndre Samuels, 6'6", 323, superstar dev, 92 strength, 84 run block, 89 impact. And if, I guess, looking at this and talking about that identity issue in Washington, it seems like with Jordan Howard, with the drafting of this left tackle, who's clearly going to lead that run blocking with that impact blocking ability to pull and the strength that he has, it seems like if there was a way this Redskins team was going, it was going to go the way of a power team with Jordan Howard running the ball, and the passing with Zach Belisari sort of becomes second.
Yeah, and Belisari, 22 touchdowns, 29 interceptions last season. I think if you take the pressure off of him, which is exactly what they've done with Jordan Howard and this left tackle, that's going to help them tremendously, because as you move away from kind of the older age on defense, you get a little younger, a little quicker. That's going to help them a lot, because the New York Giants are a very talented team everywhere. Wide receiver, halfback. I think that this left tackle, along with Jordan Howard, is going to allow them to control games more and not let the teams like the New York Giants come in, play their style, fast, talented, quick. You're going to take that away when you control the ball and play the defense, and I think that's a great move. I'm not sure it'll happen this season. I think maybe, depending on what they do with the rest of the draft. But with O.J. Howard in this left tackle, it is definitely a start. Take the pressure off Belisari, because Belisari is such a great quarterback. I just think there's too much on his shoulders. But once that kind of pressure's taken off with Jordan Howard, and he's able to play his style of football, I think it's going to be a very good football team. And I actually really like the moves the Redskins have made. They spent a lot of money, but they're very good moves, very smart moves.
Panthers fan 234 saying, can I see who the Panthers pick in the draft? Yep, so we'll cue that one up. Let me throw it to Sonny for the last word on this Redskins team. You've been on MBL Live relatively critical of Zach Belisari. We've seen some very young quarterbacks in this league have success. We saw Jack Gerberry this year, Rookie of the Year, how good he was. We've seen Ross Bonham in New Orleans really become a talented player. With Jordan Howard, how much do you see Zach Belisari improving this year? Or I guess on the flip side, does Jordan Howard improve Zach Belisari in the passing game because he does get a run game behind him, or Zach Belisari just doesn't have the talent to be that top quarterback?
Well, I kind of felt like Samaje Perine was the man out there. He played well, but we saw a lot of times they would trade him out for Dion Lewis or whoever. And times where you thought Perine should get the ball, they started throwing it. I think that was the biggest issue, was play selection. They really got to make sure if they spend all that money on Jordan Howard, they got to make sure they give him the ball. I think it's got to be a run-first offense, go play action off of it, make it real simple as far as reads go. But, that wasn't the case last year. Last year, it was almost like you would beg to put your power back in there, Samaje Perine. Instead, they'd have, Dion Lewis out there kind of run to the edge or trying to throw downfield. So they got to get a little more conservative, I think, with their offense and really kind of ride Howard to a division title.
Again, folks, we appreciate all of you tuning into the MBL Season 30 Rookie Draft State of the Franchise podcast, I guess. We don't really know what to call it, but more of an open discussion than pick-by-pick analysis here on the MBL Network. We hope you're enjoying it. I'm OSU. I'm hanging out with the commissioners, Bomber and Lip, and, of course, Sonny Weaver from the MBL Network. We got Hop watching the chat for questions. We'll throw it to Hop with a question if he has one. I don't know if he has. Hop, you got questions from the chat?
I do not right now. There's not
cool.
been any questions.
That's what I thought. As
Hop,
he's eating something.
You alive over there, buddy?
Yeah, no, he's eating something. He's having a snack. Hop, what are you eating?
Maybe carrots.
Now you're gonna
Don't ask Hop what he's drinking.
I'm not saying it. Continue. Next question.
The next question. carry on.
Wheat thins.
Bomber,
That's a weird snack, dude.
Oh, wheat thins are good with cheese on them.
Wheat thins
He
are
ain't got
delicious.
cheese. The Hop ain't got cheese.
Hop,
Well, I got
does-
cheese.
He's got cheese.
Hop cheese
somewhere
alert.
else.
Do we have cheese, Hop?
I do not.
Yeah.
I knew it.
He knows. Bomber, let's talk about somebody we haven't talked about yet. Just because of we don't really know the guy. Fellow Blitz, owner of the Carolina Panthers. We know people were asking, Panthers fan 234, asking who the Panthers picked. Let's look at their first round pick. Fellow Blitz came in, took over the Panthers middle of this year. It was a struggle out in the South, but very rarely does a team come in and take over a team other than Hop and the Oakland Raiders last cycle and do well with them. It's just hard to come into the NBL and get used to that speed. So really the first opportunity for Fellow Blitz to take control of this team and have a little direction. They go with the tight end Isaac Cowart at number 6. Quick dev, 6'5", 264, 85 speed, 84 catch, 80 catch in traffic, 83 spec catch. This guy is a receiver. This guy is very O.J. Howard-like, 6'5", 264, similar build. Where do you see the Carolina Panthers fitting in now? Ownership has an opportunity to have their first full season with it. That NFC South, I think it's tougher than people give it credit for. The Saints, a very good team. The Falcons, I think, will be much better this season than they were last season. Where does this Panthers team fit in, and where does Isaac Cowart fit into that offense?
Who are you asking?
You.
Oh,
You
yeah.
haven't talked in a while. Why not? We'll throw it to you. Why not?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, this Panthers offense is getting redone. I mean, you got a new ownership over there. Haven't had Greg Olsen in about 3 years. Their big receiver last year was Curtis Samuel. They had Devin Funchess, Kelvin Benjamin. They had Ladarius Green. Obviously, Ladarius Green has a hard time staying healthy. I think it's a good pick. This is going to be looking to drive the ball down the field. I mean, nice stats, comparable to O.J. Howard, yes, and he got a big contract by the New Orleans Saints. You got to have a tight end in this league. You have to have somebody that you can get those intermediate passes to and kind of drive the ball down the field. I think he's a nice vertical threat for this team. I mean, 6'5", what is it, 264 pounds? Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good size tight end right there. I think a little early to draft him at 6 overall. I think that's really early, but I mean, that was a need that the Panthers had coming into this, and that's the direction that they're going to go. I think the quarterback Heath Joyce is going to be happy. We've seen Joyce turn it up towards the end of a couple seasons. Maybe he can kind of relive that magic. I think it's all about health, though, for the Carolina Panthers. Christian McCaffrey, Charles Sims, they've been hurt. McCaffrey the most. He only had 109 attempts rushing last year. So they need to just stay healthy, and hopefully this rookie can come in and give them a little bit more production at the tight end position. Ladarius Green, 41 catches, 474, only 3 touchdowns. I think he can do that year one.
Lep, how good is Christian McCaffrey? A guy who has never been healthy. He reminds me of Leonard Fournette, although Fournette was actually healthy for a good portion of this season. And by a good portion, I don't think he got hurt at any point. How good is McCaffrey, and how much does injury factor into your evaluation of talent?
Well, McCaffrey is one heck of a player, but his inability to stay healthy is so bad, because you look at it. A few seasons ago, over 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. At no other point in the past 4 years has he broken 10 touchdowns. It's just so sad to see such a talented player be hurt, and it's so much worse whenever you are able to run the ball like that when he's healthy, and then when he's gone, you have so much trouble because the defenses are no longer worried about that run game, and that's really shown in the passing game for the Panthers in the last couple of years. When Christian McCaffrey goes down, there's really not a whole lot they can do. They've passed for a lot of yards, but it's a totally different offense now. But Christian McCaffrey, when he's healthy, is such a stud in this league, but he's only been able to do that one season. So it's kind of questionable. But like I said, the biggest thing is when that guy's gone, you know that the only thing the Panthers have is Heath Joyce. And whenever you can just eliminate one attack from an offense, you have a much better chance at stopping them and winning just because they're one-dimensional completely.
Well, you had the supremely overpaid Philip Dorsett, though, so don't forget that.
Who is tradable, which is unbelievable. It's crazy.
What's that
Who would
contract
trade for
looking like now?
that contract?
Yeah, what's that contract looking like now?
I had trouble finding it because Mr. Philip Dorsett only had 15 receptions and under 400 yards last year. 4 years, $22 million salary, $24 million signing bonus for an astounding, a mind-blowing 15 receptions, 393 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And like I said, the guy's tradable. It's just, I cannot believe that this contract was given out. It's got to be difficult seeing that guy only go for 400 yards. They desperately need Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy so they can fully utilize Philip Dorsett.
Yeah, Philip Dorsett is going to make $12.11 million this year, just over $12 million this year. He's 28 years old, and he's now slow development.
Woo!
I mean, talk about a bad contract. 4 years, $46
Welcome to Carolina.
million. And y'all want to know how many games last year he had over 100 receiving yards? 1. And he was 2 catches for 104. He broke one for 59. He broke one for 68. So basically, he's a big play guy that doesn't get a lot of big plays, and really struggled last year and had his lowest production of this Madden cycle last season. So, man, big time payday. Congrats to him. His family's living well. They're eating good, but he's really not producing for Carolina.
Yeah, bro, he is making all the money. His family's thrilled from that contract, I assume.
I don't want to jump in too much, but fellow Blitz saying in the chat, $12 million cap penalty for Dorsett. So if he was traded, I actually think that they have quite a bit of cap penalty. You can't go over $15 million based on MBL rules. So if they can't trade him based on that. But that is such a massive hit. Yeah. You're stuck with this guy, and if they can't get production out of him, they're just paying him to just kind of hang out.
As we are nearing the end of the 4th round, Steelers on the clock. We'll be going until about 10 o'clock. So I've got one more thing I want to talk about, but I just saw this pop up in our group meeting. I assume you guys have seen it at this point, but I bet the people out there who haven't seen it would have no idea that the guy who was rated number 5 in true talent was a fullback. And the Kansas City Chiefs picked up this guy in the at 115th pick here in the 4th round. 84 overall fullback. Shout out to fullbacks. I don't think fullbacks get enough love, Bomber, because the run game in this particular Madden, you have such an ability. I felt like in Madden 17, the only way to run was out of the shotgun. I felt like sort of those inside zones was the way to go. And in this game, the inside zone is certainly very good, but the ability to line up in single back and I formation, especially I formation, and follow a lead blocker like a fullback, I felt like that's something that hasn't been around in the game in quite a long time. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Here's the question I'm going to pose to everyone here as we're getting towards the end of the draft. And we'll start it as Lip has just picked. So I'll throw it to Lip first. We talked about the thing that everybody wants the most on their wish list for Madden 18. But let's go the positive route because there are a lot of people out there, a lot of negativity toward this game. So let's go positive. Lip, what do you think is the one thing in this particular iteration of Madden you are thrilled to have seen that you didn't see in past Maddens? Whether it's a feature, whether it's a gameplay thing, whether it's something from the CFM. What is the one thing that you're going to remember from Madden 18 as, boy, they did a really good job with that?
It's a thing. I don't want to pick this because I think it's going to go on into multiple Maddens. I hope they build upon it, but I absolutely love the adjustments that you're able to make with conservative pass rush, aggressive pass rush, play the ball, play the wide receiver, swat the ball. I love all those things. I know October and I have always talked about this. We've played Madden for such a long time, and when you had the ability to match up wide receivers with corners, or match your cornerbacks up in the right situations, that totally changes the game. It totally changes your entire experience on the defensive side of the ball. For a long time, we felt like man coverage was kind of it just needed a little bit of a bump. We got that this cycle, but whenever you can add the element of the assignments on defense, that has truly changed the defensive side of the ball for us. And I love that. I'd like to see them go a little, I'd like to see them build upon it. I know it's going to be in the next, it's going to be something that they build upon. But outside of that, I think that, like Sonny said, something with contracts, something with being able to manage your team a little bit deeper would be great. But as far as this, man, I think they really killed it with those adjustments because, like I said, October and I have talked about it. That was something that was so huge, and they had it before, and now it has totally changed the way that you play defense. You're no longer stuck having your number one on their number one throughout the entire game. It's really a cool element to this game that I have loved. I'm terrible at defense. Everybody knows that, but I have absolutely loved it, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Sonny, I know you've been one of the people on Twitter, I think, with that Forverts Twitter, which if you're not following, go follow the Forverts podcast on Twitter. I love watching that Twitter because you do a great job of interacting with a lot of the people in the CFM community, and a lot of people interact with you in a way that we don't see with sort of the full immersion Twitters that we have here in the MBL. So, your take on what is the one thing that you're really happy about in this game?
To me, I think it's more offensive line play, offensive and defensive line play in general. The offensive line play has definitely improved this year. You see halfbacks basically coming across the across the formation, picking up guys. You see the linemen, kind of their targeting system got revamped this year. They actually look for guys to block. So there's a lot of improvements there. But even on the defensive line, you can actually push an offensive line back into the quarterback, and you can reach around him and grab the quarterback, which is kind of a cool thing that, hasn't happened before. So I think that whole interaction, it got better this year. I look for it to continue to get better as we go. But I definitely think that's one of those things that you're pretty excited to see, if you're a lineman kind of trench play fan.
Yeah, and last but not least, Bomber, your thoughts on thing you're really happy to see in this game, and hopefully something that you'll see in future iterations of Madden.
I'll go with Lip. I like the cornerback matchups. I like the ability to put speed against speed or by depth chart. I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I think they kind of just not doing it by overall, by actually doing it by speed. I also like the regression system as far as keeping the speed for the wide receivers, the cornerbacks. I think that's good, keeping them where they're at and having guys hit. Because I think it created a little bit of you have Antonio Brown at 90 speed now. He's not going to go any lower. It actually keeps him somewhat usable at 32, 33. So extended careers from 1 to 2 years, sometimes 3 years on guys that had a lot of skill and have the size. If they stay healthy, man, they can still be valuable assets to your team. So I think the regression system, while it still needs a lot of work and it is very linear, I think Sonny said that earlier. But I think just a little patch, it's just a short-term fix. I think it did wonders for older players, and it created some value in older players that they wouldn't have. Because, Antonio Brown would just be a midget with 86 speed right now. Now at least he has 90, and he can still kind of move. And then he still has his elusiveness, and his agility still kind of there enough. Yeah, his acceleration is a little lower, but he still can get it done. Same thing with Julio Jones, and we saw A.J. Green go for 1,000 yards last year because he still has the speed to get downfield. So I think that was a plus, and then a couple of things that I really liked.
Yeah, and exactly. Sonny's hit on that earlier whenever he said that you're seeing halfbacks have a longer career in the NBL, and it's because of that regression system. Whenever it first came out, there was a lot of questions around it, but it actually has played out pretty well. Like you said, there's some adjustments that need made to it, but it has really made the careers of these guys last a lot longer. They're still very effective, but it's in a different way, which is very interesting because it allows you to have the option to keep those guys and it makes the game deeper because you now have to figure out how to use those guys at a little bit less acceleration, a little bit less agility. It's really a cool function in this game.
Yeah, I think for me, in terms of gameplay, I was impressed at the adjustments they made with man coverage. I thought in Madden, at least the last couple of Maddens, man coverage always felt like a liability. Our rules in the MBL stating you have to run at least 30% man. I felt like because man coverage is so much better this season, we're seeing a whole lot of people get away from playing 30% man, and we're getting closer to 60, 40, 50, 50 because of how good the man coverage is. Like, I feel comfortable running man near the goal line now, which was something that was never true. I will say, I think one of the most underrated things they added in this game, and I know for the CFM people out there, they're going to be mad because I know it took away from the CFM. But the long shot mode and the MUT squads, I thought those were two modes that I know that this season, and I think October said it in the chat, he said, I think we'll be surprised at Madden 19 because Madden 18 was a transition year. And I agree with that because I think those two modes, they're going to carry into next year, but they're not going to require as much attention. And that's why CFM is going to get a big boost from the developers this season. But I had a lot of fun. I know we haven't touched long shot in a while. My one complaint is it's sort of a one playthrough mode, but I had a lot of fun playing long shot right when the game came out. And MUT squads, we've sort of all fallen off because the CFM takes so much time, but I thought those were really clever additions to the game that added some depth outside of CFM, and now I'm excited to see where we go next year with the additions to CFM. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
No, I totally agree. I'm not into those games at all. Those kind of, I'm not even sure what they're called. That's how out of it I am. But I really liked long shot mode, and I agree that if there was more long-term playability to it, I would have liked it. But it was something that I played because I wanted to try what Madden was, putting out there for people, and I thought it was great for people that really like that stuff to get into Madden, learn football. There was a lot of teaching moments throughout that long shot story mode that were very beneficial to people that maybe are just trying out Madden or maybe don't really, get into football that much. There was some really great teaching moments in that long shot story mode that I thought were very valuable to the average Madden player.
Well, we're going to wrap up this bad boy momentarily. I've got one more question I'm supposed to use.
All right, I got a story I want to share.
Okay, we got a story.
About long shot.
Sure.
Okay, so,
you're just going to tell us the story of long shot?
No, it's a story on which I kind of like, I'll explain it to you. It'll make more sense before we wrap this up. So, essentially, I'm playing long shot, and I think I'm this great passer, right? And they're going through the storyline, and they're talking to everybody about, hey, you're looking for this, you're looking for that, but your quarterback's obviously struggling. So they say, well, this is what we did with Cam Newton. We split the field in half and just made the reads a lot simpler for him. And, as I was hearing that, I was like, that's what I do. So I thought I was this this great passer, but in reality, I was the dumb guy that they had to split the field in half for, and I was doing it on myself. So I got kind of like laughed to myself. I was like, man, I thought I was making these great decisions, but really I was just cutting the field in half and just trying to take advantage of my 3-on-2 situations I have on one side of the field or whatever it may be. But yeah, I was just splitting the field in half, which they insinuated was what they do with quarterbacks who just can't get the pro system. So that's my story. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up with one final question I'll pose to each of you, and then we'll get out of here. We appreciate all of you tuning into a little different look at the MBL rookie draft. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Bomber, looking forward to the future. Season 30 coming up for the MBL. What is one thing you look back over the last 30 seasons and you go, I'm really proud of that, and I'm really excited to see where it goes in the future. If there's one thing that you, looking back over 30 seasons, you love seeing from the MBL.
The amount of guys that actually put effort into the league. I mean, at first, even Sonny was here, Lip was here. You can tell, maybe it was 7 people and really 3 people, and then it was 10 people, but really like 5 people, or 5 doing a little bit and then 5 more doing a lot. And now it seems like over half the league's doing a lot. And even the bottom half, even the ones that don't do much, show up to everything, and they do contribute where they can. And maybe it's 3 or 4 guys, So people who are at the bottom now would be somewhere towards the top at one point. So that's really cool. I mean, and that's one thing you look at. It's just pretty much the community. It's over the 30 seasons who stuck with us through the community and who's contributing and how much they're contributing. And it's allowing our league to grow. And really, we're at levels that are pretty much unheard of and unseen. And that's why you can see on the applications that we get, people always write these little things in there like, I've never seen a league like this. I don't know how you guys do it, et cetera, et cetera. And you're just like, for us, we kind of, maybe we don't take it for advantage, but I mean, for granted, but we really just are living in the moment with it, that we just kind of expect it now. So our expectations are these guys' goals, and that's pretty cool to see.
Lip, same question. Is something you're really proud of over 30 years and you're excited to see going forward?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as Bummer. We've seen so much change over 30 seasons, just over 4 years. 4 years doesn't sound like a lot, but the the point from where we started to where we are at now, it's really about these guys who have really bought into what this little community is all about, and we've seen that just this group has been able to do really massive things. We talked about the EA Twitch stream for our Super Bowl. That was incredibly huge, and it really speaks to how a lot of leagues, people that go 4-12 may not be as interested, but I can tell you, I know the guys in our league. It doesn't matter if you're 16-0 or 0-16, you are fully invested in this league. You never lose interest, and from the top to the bottom, it is like that, and that's something that I'm extremely impressed with and very proud of, that we have such a special group of people that want to play this game together and have been together for such a long time. I'm very impressed with it, and I'm very proud with it. I just am so excited to see where we go from here, and it's just this amazing shout out to everybody that plays in this league, and it's so much more than a Madden league. It's completely beyond just a Madden game. It's not even just a video game. It's so much more than that.
No, let's say it again.
What was I watching Bomber doing? What was that?
I was gonna force a win versus Kyle to put him out of his misery, because when we meet, it's gonna be just as easy. It's gonna be like a click of a button. All right, are we done with the show? Are we?
Well, I think there's one more person who hasn't chimed in, and I know you forget about Sonny, but I assume Sonny's answer is highly debatable. That's what you're most proud about, right?
All right, quiz on Sonny. What was Sonny's first team when he joined the MBL?
Ooh.
And who was the first trade that he actually acquired? He probably doesn't even remember. He's probably going to argue, but just let it go, Sonny, if you don't.
He'll argue.
He acquired a wide receiver from another team. So if you can name the team that he was and the player he acquired, he'll get. I'm not going to give you anything.
You'll get nothing.
We got anything?
This is just a moment to show Sonny that he doesn't remember.
He doesn't remember, but
he
doesn't remember last season.
All right, the original team that he was the New York Jets, actually, and the first person he traded for, at least that I remember. Do you remember, Sonny?
You are going to say it was a wide receiver from the Chargers, I think?
No, it was from the Rams.
Oh,
I remember.
It was Tavon Austin.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
And do you know what you gave up for that?
4th round pick. 7th round pick.
First round
maybe?
pick. No, it was a first.
Was it?
And I told you, he's going to struggle getting off the line, because that was the game where you could just press up and know
if
you had a small receiver, he couldn't
Madden,
get off the line.
What was that, 15?
Yeah, I think it was 25.
25,
man. Yeah, 25
Oh,
for sure.
it was in 2015,
way back.
And they went to 25 that year? Is that what
Yeah,
it was?
who doesn't love doing that? Madden 14, Madden 25, Madden 6. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's so screwy.
Yeah, 14 was 25. So it was 13, 25, 15, 16.
It's just when we started. Madden 25. It's when we started. It's easy. It's easy.
OSU, to your earlier question, let me go ahead and throw something in there that people, I think, on the outside don't understand, and probably the thing that makes the league the most special is we talk about 4 years. It's really the friendship and the camaraderie. Since we've been here, we've had guys graduate, get married, go on to have careers and jobs.
Hey,
and
that's me.
What was that, Lip?
That's me.
Yeah.
Get married in May,
basically,
graduated college in December, grown up.
But what we've also had, hardships. We've had people lose their jobs. We've had deaths in the family. We've had all sorts of life events happen. And through those times, you see the community come together. We've raised money for good causes, and we've done different things. And I think, people on the outside, when they see what we do and they see all the things going on, that's the stuff that they don't see. That's the stuff that, for the most part stays internal. But I think it's what makes people want to do all those things. And it's what makes them want to be involved and donate to the league and really be a part of what most people consider almost a fraternity, because, once you've kind of been here through all this, you learn these people's lives. It really is kind of a family.
Yeah, I'll just say I think you can tell from the people here, and you tell from the people in the chat how much this league means, and I think that's what is made this night fun, which is taking a little look inside the MBL. We're excited to keep doing this with you guys. We appreciate everybody tuning in, whether it's to this is your first time, whether you've been tuning into MBL Live. I think you'll see some fun stuff. I'm excited to see where we go with the network in season 30 and beyond. I think you're going to see some cool stuff from the league and the network, but we're going to get out of here. We appreciate you guys tuning into this MBL season 30 rookie draft, state of the franchise, podcast, broadcast, whatever you want to call it. It was fun. I appreciate everybody who came on the show. For my co-host Bomber, Lip, Sonny, and Hop watching the chat, I am OSU. Once again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you this year throughout the season on MBL Live and across all of our MBL Network shows.